It's never a bad thing to be in really good shape, and it's never a bad thing to be able to shoot really well. And if you combine the two into a game, then I don't see it being a bad thing,
Welcome to episode number 55 of The Everyday Marksman, the podcast where it is all about tactical skills for living a more adventurous life. I'm Matt.
I'm Allison.
And welcome. Our website is everydaymarksman.co, and there you're going to find today's show notes as well as all the rest of our articles, our podcast episodes, our awesome community of marksmen, and
our YouTube channel.
Brand new YouTube channel, yes. Alice and I have been doing YouTube lately, making videos and doing some streaming. How have you been feeling about that?
The streaming is like me recreating my musician days, getting to perform live. It's a great feeling. And I love chatting with people in the community, in the marksman community that I don't always get to talk to. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, it's an interaction. It's awesome. So if you're listening to this, definitely come check out. I know you're going to see the recordings of it now, but the next one is coming up. It's going to be next week and December 29th. And I'm talking to Doc Larson of One Shepherd about training for kind of what it means for an everyday citizen. So definitely come check that one out. Mark your calendar, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel. Now, with that out of the way, what is the topic of the day, Allison?
Today, we will be talking about the tactical games.
Yes, the tactical games, which is a really timely subject because we're at the tail end of a lot of articles lately about, like the tactical biathlon or the arc latex multi-gun match, or like talking about desert brutality and woodland brutality. We've talked about these things in the marksman community, and it's really awesome to see this combination of shooting and fitness, and then these two halves of it coming together. So our guest is Mike Green. It's his second time on the show. He's owner of Green Ops Inc., who does a lot of tactical training, both around here in Northern Virginia, as well as around San Antonio, Texas. And his wife came to join us,
Pascale, and she sounds like somebody I would be friends with. She's a mom like me, and she's a level 2 CrossFit coach. And she won the intermediate level of the tactical games. So shout out to Pascale. I mean, wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. So before we get an interview, call it a teaser. So tease us here a little bit. What's the thing to listen for?
The main takeaway here is do the tactical games. It sounds amazing. You get an amazing challenge, both with accuracy for your marksmanship, and on top of that, burpees. And I heard the word upside down a few times. That intrigued me.
Yeah, I did too, going upside down. All right, let's get to the interview. Welcome back, Mike. Welcome back to Everyday Marksman.
Good to be back. Thank you for having me back.
So the reason I wanted to talk to you is because, of course, I follow social media. So I know your wife's on, so she does the social media piece of it. But I noticed you have a lot of things with tactical games. What is the tactical games in general?
So the easiest way to say it is, it's CrossFit games meets two-gun matches. The stuff you would see in a tactical unit, like rope climbs, carrying, heavy bags or, water cans or something to that nature, something like a selection event, and then followed up or predicated by a firearms portion. Originally, it was designed by Tim Burke, a good friend of mine from 7th Group. And Tim came up with the concept based off of a couple things. One, a unit he was in, they did these quite often. And then when he came, we were in the same unit. We had a monthly program that we did very similar to this. And then we also went to the Counterterrorism Olympics that was held in Latin America. So it was based on a combination of all those things. And it was, people will complain and say it's not tactical the reality of it is that it's never a bad thing to be in really good shape, and it's never a bad thing to be able to shoot really well. And if you combine the two into a game, then I don't see it being a bad thing,
That gets into the divisions questions. What really is the differences between the divisions?
So usually the differences are minor in equipment. Some of them are, will be less restrictive in equipment, like the carry optics division allows you to have optics on your firearms or your pistol. But and then tactical, I think they have different standards. I think there's the gear and optics are geared more towards a tactical type of a person. And then the elite is more of an open type, pretty much anything goes on the gun within certain limitations. But the elites are also, their events are typically require lifting more weight and further distances and harder obstacles typically, There's also a master's division. I think there's 2 master's divisions in men. I think there's an over 40 and over 50 crew. The women they don't have a master's division yet, but I talked to the owner and he was telling me the biggest reason they don't is just the amount of females that compete at this time. But if enough women show up or start showing up, which they're becoming more and more, then they may start having a master's division for the women also. I'm looking at the Tactical Games website right now, and one of the things they talk about is the different divisions is they give a physical fitness standard. Okay. So, as an example, for the men's elite, a suggested physical ability is to be able to climb a rope in full kit, and to do functional fitness workouts at the prescribed recommended prescribed rate. Be capable of running and performing tasks. And then I'll look at the, let's see what's the one below that is. So the tactical division is they recommend that you run a sub 11-minute mile in full kit, or be able to run it in about 9 minutes, 15 seconds slick. So it's not just, gear and stuff like that, but they give suggestions also, like, hey, if you're in this physical capability, if you're in this fitness category, you might want to be able to do this or consider that.
So kind of a practical question then. You say full kit. So what does full kit mean in this context?
Okay. So in this context, I believe it's, your pistol belt, your ammo, and a body armor with magazines, and then your rifle, unless I'm mistaken. But it usually on the website, it gives those general descriptions. It also gives the weight requirements and the other requirements on their website, the tacticalgames.com.
Cool. All right. So moving on just from the kind of what are the tactical games then, why would someone do this?
Why does anyone do anything? They see a challenge or they see something that looks fun and they decide to do it. When I was a range safety officer or referee at one of these events years ago, there was a gentleman that I had to run with and grade, and he owned a car garage or a mechanic's garage. He decided he was going to do this thing, right? And he was a large man, and the first thing they had to do was run to a rope and climb it with their body armor and their kit. And I looked at this guy and said to myself, there's no way this guy's going to climb this thing. He ran down there, he climbed that thing, came down, went to the mound, he shot from the prone and then ran and then when he came back, he did it again. And afterwards I commended him. I said, wow, that was amazing, And he goes, I lost, I think he said 25, 30 pounds. And he's already a big man. So I'm amazed. Like, he lost weight just to climb that rope because he competed in the event the year before. And to me, that was more impressive than seeing a Green Beret or a SEAL climb a rope, was seeing an average man that said, I want to climb that rope and I'm going to do what it takes to do it. And he did. He trained and lost weight and did it. Now, to me, it was extremely impressive, to see the dedication for someone to do that.
And it speaks, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, no, impressive individual,
So, I think this kind of goes in the same vein as like a GoRuck event where it's someone used to ask me like, why would you do that? And the answer kind of comes down to is because sometimes you just need to challenge yourself.
And we're seeing more and more of that. So you're seeing I think at the higher end levels, what I'm seeing there is, the person that's in really good shape and they know a little bit about guns and they go, you know what, I want to try this. And they learn more about gun safety and shooting. And then they get out there and compete and they do better than they thought they would because they're in physically great shape. And then on the other spectrum, you have some really good shooting competitors out there in the civilian competition world that aren't that physically in shape, and they go, you know what, I want to try this, and they start running and doing CrossFit or something of that nature, and they jump in and they find that they did even better than they anticipated because they're really good shooters. There were plenty of people we met out there that were average Joes, average people that competed, moms. We, met plenty of ladies that were there that were like, yeah, I told my husband I wanted to do this, and, I did it. My wife said she wanted to compete, and I said, all right. So my wife competed in, what you competed in?
Women intermediate.
She competed in women's intermediate. Now she wants to compete in the elite because she won the women's intermediate when she did that one.
So now that we've gone through what is the tactical games and why someone might want to do this, I guess the next question in my mind is, what are some tips for helping someone prepare? Like, what did you go through, or what have you learned that makes you think you can next time better prepare for the next event?
I think personally for us, some of the things that we learned, I'll give suggestions to the average person, but I think for us it was, one, know the events. So know how to lift the items that you're lifting. So for example, if you're lifting a heavy sandbag, don't think that you can just pick up a regular sandbag. I mean, what was the heaviest weight? 150?
Yeah, 150 for the elite.
So that was a unique position to be in, right? Or what are some lessons you learned?
Need to practice more shooting at a long distance for sure, because we don't practice that very much. Because I'm so used to like USPSA matches, used to like drawing fast, shooting fast, as fast as I can, and that's totally the opposite. At the tactical games, it's more accuracy. I mean, you still have to be fast, but not at shooting, because you have to be accurate. And the distances are like longer than I expected. Like at some point we were shooting at 300, 400 yards with the rifle.
Yeah.
Definitely get better gear, practice more, get more time on the range. And as far as workouts, I think just keep doing what I'm doing.
When she says better gear, one of the things that she was doing with the body armor was rubbing her in training the wrong way. So she knew she needed a better kit, right?
Yeah.
So she after the games, got a different set of body armor, But I mean, in general, most everything that we have, because we're kind of, tactical nerds here, we've got most everything we need. And then the gun, the gun is like, we've got a Sons of Liberty gun carbine, and that thing is just, it's accurate as all get out, and it functioned incredibly. It was incredibly reliable. So we saw folks with guns that they had issues or problems, So, but the other thing that we were good at, like we zeroed our guns, we knew our point of aim, point of impact.
Yeah.
So that wasn't an issue, but I could see, matter of fact, there were people that we met that had those issues out there, I was like, they were completely off. Like they were like saying they didn't realize the height over or the distance, so they were completely missing the target, because you're aiming at a small target. So at 100 yards, if you're aiming at a 3x5 card with a rifle, well, that's nothing, right? Well, you add on top of that you just ran a mile or something like that. And then you weren't set up for pinpoint accuracy, The other thing that we practiced was, like the transition, like when you go from your rifle to picking up something big, what's the way your sling management, I think, is underrated. People don't really think about those things. I think that we were definitely, ahead of the game in regards to that, because she had practiced that. It's easy enough to do a workout in the garage and then just sling your rifle in between, picking up something heavy and then snapping into position or something like that.
Actually, I want to dig into that one, because that's a great point. I hadn't even thought about sling management. So when we're talking about sling management, I'm assuming most people have something like the Vickers with the adjustable or the Magpul MS1 or something. So you sling it to the front, or would you sling it behind you, or how would you sling that?
Generally, if you can, the best thing to do is sling it to your back, because now it's out of your way. You can climb and do everything you need to do. But there may be some occasions. Did you ever have to sling it to your front for anything?
No, I held it like
yeah. But no, just in general, going to your back. But, a lot of people will, they'll take it off. They'll take forever. It's literally like you want to swim into that to go to the next transition point of picking something up or getting ready to climb that rope,
Let's say somebody's using this as a way to kind of dual prepare themselves, like both tactical training and fitness seat. Do you think there's a practical balance between setting up your gear to optimize for the games versus how you would otherwise set it up for like a real world situation?
Yes and no. So for example, when I shoot USPSA, I have a different holster. My mags are set up slightly different. But when I have my tactical type gear on, a retention holster, and, I have my magazines in there a lot tighter, and then they're a little bit moved over because now on USPSA, I'm shooting pistol. Whereas in, my tactical kit, I've got like an M4 magazine on the belt also. But at the same time, I've used lessons learned from competition to help me set my gear up for my tactical side that, okay, if I wanted to shoot a competition with my tactical gear, I could theoretically do it because everything is in a position where I can get to it quickly. Whereas in the past, before I started shooting competition, I'd have everything tightened down and Velcroed. So it would take 10 minutes to get to a mag or something like that because you didn't want to lose it. But there's that balance, So one of my mags on my tactical vest, I don't have it secured with Velcro or anything like that. That's my go-to mag. If I lose it, well, then I've got another one next to it that's Velcroed down. And then that's just from experience using competition to help me out for the tactical side.
So something that stood out to me, you mentioned training in your gear. So this is something that I think a lot of people forget is that they buy the shiny new stuff. They put their pouches on it and then they never take it unless they go to the occasional training class, move in it and see, is it going to rub? Is the friction points or anything like that? I think that's an extremely important thing to do.
Us testing it out was, those, old military and special forces techniques, PCIs, pre-combat check inspections, we tested all the gear, had her stand in her gear and then jump up and down and just start looking for things that are loose. And then, hey, okay, let's start working out with it, You
mentioned the pre-combat inspection, the PCI, like you're doing that for the gear and preparing. What other kind of stuff would there be for like someone who's just trying to do a shakeout?
You will at some point be upside down, probably. The biggest thing, obviously, is making sure that the magazines, they're not going to fall out. So I would say making sure your magazines and your firearm, is obviously it's going to be in a retention device holster too. That your sling is set up to the point where you can jump up, do burpees basically with a slung rifle. A lot of folks, they overlook that and they think, oh, it's on tight enough. And they've never done a burpee with it. And then the first thing that happens when they go to do the burpee is they get hit in the back of the head with the butt of the gun, So it has to be tight enough that they're not going to injure themselves when they do something like that.
I feel like in the last couple of months, I'd emailed you a question just about rifle configuration because I was noticing that on a lot of the pictures I was seeing from the games, there was magnifier with red dot, which
yes,
for all intents and purposes felt like that was like, that's passe. We're talking 15 years ago where everybody now is on the LPVO with offset red dot. Why was the prevalence there? Or like, basically, how would you configure a rifle for this?
So some folks are just really used to the red dot. And so the magnifier is a transition for them. And they feel comfortable with that. But I would tell you my personal preference for the games would be a LPVO. My wife used a magnifier because she didn't have the training behind the LPVO before she went. And I think that would have been setting her up for failure because, you're not just coming up standing, you're shooting around obstacles, maybe through ports. And if you don't, how to get your proper cheek well at a canted angle through a port, you're setting yourself up for failure. So I just made the suggestion of just go with what we have right now. We don't really have the opportunity or time to go out and re-zero everything. So I would say that the LPVO is the way to go.
All right, Mike, I know we were about to run out of time, so I asked you this question last time. I want to see if your answer is different this time. But what is something you wish people would stop doing?
I don't remember that question. Let's see. I don't know. I tell you what, I wish people would stop doing. I don't know if it's still the same. But I really don't like is the people that are saying, you know what, that guy is a former Green Beret and he shouldn't be training civilians, or that guy is a competitive shooter and he shouldn't be training tactical stuff. Or, let's face it, people are trying to train. It depends on what you're going to that person for, I can learn a ton from an IPSC grandmaster as far as shooting skills go. I'm not going to ask him, hey, how do I clear a room or do CQB or, fight with a knife or something like that. But I'm sure I could learn a ton from them when it comes to, pulling the trigger faster and getting a better shot group faster, speed and accuracy. But at the same time, people always make the assumption about, special forces guys, they don't know what it's like to be a civilian carrying without backup. Well, guess what? Plenty of times, when I was in special forces, we were sent to faraway lands without any backup. And the only thing we had was a pistol stuck in our pants, So, I wish that.
And from the last time we talked, you told me some stories about that, like just you deep concealment and then not a lot of people around. All right. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
I'd say our main website, which is www.green-ops.com. We're also on Instagram as Green Ops Inc. And then we're on Facebook, Green Ops Inc. And then I think our YouTube's Green Ops Inc. Yeah.
Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure talking to you again. I appreciate you taking the time.
Definitely. Hey, thanks for having us on. And it was good talking with you.
Nice talking to you.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Mike and Pascale. Allison, what did you think?
I thought it was a great interview.
Yeah. So let's talk about some key takeaways from this one. There was a lot of big things there, but I want to get your take to kind of wrap it up. I want to give me your top two.
For me, my two main takeaways is that the tactical games can bring someone from either end who is maybe someone who's interested in fitness and they're in pretty good shape, but they're not so much into shooting, but they want to do the tactical games, so they have to start practicing shooting. Or on the other hand, it can bring somebody who's already into shooting and pretty good at shooting, but needs to up their fitness game. And I thought that was a really good point, that you end up being really good at both, which is the point that he said, if you're a good shooter and you're in good shape, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think for me, one of the big takeaways too was about gear and the importance of making sure that it fits. And then you do the whole pre-combat inspection thing where you wear it, you jump around in it, you work out in it, look for those friction points and rubbing points, shake it out to see if anything's going to fall out on you, especially when you go upside down. I think that applies not just the tactical games, but probably your kit in general, whether you're going to a training class or getting involved in the boog, you want your stuff to fit right.
That was actually my second takeaway as well, practicing in your gear. I think that was a very good point.
Cool. All right. And I think besides that, I think the last one for me would probably be something along the lines of just don't worry about having the best stuff in the world. Just show up and go for it and have fun. You never know what you can run into until you actually go try it.
Also a great point. So when are you signing up?
I don't know. We got to see when there's one going on, but there is a Woodland Brutality in West Virginia or in spring next year. So maybe I could try something like that for this one. I don't know. What do you think?
Absolutely.
You heard it. That's permission. That's permission from another competition. All right.
I'm not your mother. You don't need my permission. You heard it here.
Correct. All right. Well, Allison, I'm glad you got to join me today.
I had a great time.
And thank you for listening. As a reminder, our website is everydaymarksman.co, and you'll find today's show notes as well as our YouTube channel. Come out for next week's stream. And hey, while you're at the website, hit that big fat subscribe button and join the mailing list. Through that, you also get access to our Discord server, and you get to hang out with our awesome community of marksmen. Well, that's going to be it for me. So thank you, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.